Good morning, everyone. In today's event, we are going to discuss on the increased focus on play-based exploration, the road towards a holistic perception of Indian hydrocarbon prospectivity. The objective of today's event is to have a discussion on the play-based exploration being a fundamental concept in our analysis of sedimentary basins, all to escalate our inclusive efforts to increase the chance of finding hydrocarbons. A number of Indian and international experts, domain and industry specialists will speak on topics ranging from play concepts, industry best practices, play assessment, and risking to challenges and opportunities of Indian basins to exploration strategy and policy framework. With this, we will now begin our inaugural session. May I take the opportunity to welcome Dr. C. Laxma Reddy, ADG Exploration, Directorate General of Hydrocarbons, to share the welcome address. Dr. C. Laxma Reddy is an upstream oil and gas professional with more than 3 decades of diverse experience covering the entire gamut of E&P industry. He has worked in field operational areas like Ankleshwar in western India, in Assam Arakan Fold Belt in northeast India, and in offshore and onshore areas of Krishna Godavari Basin in Andhra Pradesh, during which he monitored, supervised, coordinated, and executed various well site geological operations like lithologging, electrologging, production testing, log interpretation and correlation, and other production and development geology activities like workover operations. May I now request you, sir, to commence the session by sharing the welcome address.
Thank you, Chandrama. Good morning to you all. Again, as I was telling you, we are virtually meeting, which we would have been meeting physically because of this pandemic situation. And I welcome all distinguished speakers, moderators, delegates, and our organizing team. This event, which we are organizing, a play-based exploration, going back to our basics of exploration. This is, we all geologists will take it as a routine, and this is the actually conducting this event is the brainchild of our Director General, DGH, and in fact, his initiative, and he has lined up this event and asked us to conduct an event with international experts as well as the domestic experts, and so that industry, small operators, medium operators, large operators. Of course, even if it is large operator, the people who are in these companies are basically people who are in the starting of their profession. Everybody get benefited. So this event is being organized as a increased focus on play-based exploration. What? The road towards holistic perception of Indian hydrocarbon prospectivity. So to listen to this event, the virtual event, I welcome you all to take us to the very basic of petroleum exploration and take the benefit out of these deliberations. We all were thinking if the 21st century comes, we will be occupying the Mars, we will be occupying the moon, and we never thought that we will heard words like pandemic, epidemic in 21st century. That is the nature. Predicting nature is very difficult one. Similar to space expedition, ocean expedition, oil exploration, of course, it is with less uncertainty when you compare those exploration. We are searching for the oil and gas, and oil is there, until you find it. Until you prove that it is not there, we cannot say that oil is not there. Oil is hiding. Only we need to find out these tools, different tools we need to deploy to find this oil. Yes, play-based exploration or PBE is a fundamental concept in our analysis of sedimentary basin to escalate our efforts to increase the chance of finding hydrocarbons. Play-based exploration, as we are all know, it's nothing but an approach to focus exploration at the play level rather than at the prospect level. What happened of late, we started carving out small blocks and started looking for the oil and gas locales within those blocks. But it is not really restricted to only, regional geological understanding, play extent, geological extent and geographical extent, where exactly the accumulation is taking place. That, that understanding has come down little bit because of we are exploring at a block level and a prospect level. But that is not the thing. If you have to really find huge deposits, we need to look at the basin level as well as the play level. That is the concept, that we are going back to play based exploration to discover previously unseen exploration opportunities, make better exploration decisions by assessing a basin and play prospectivity using consistent global data sets and industry best practice, basically a play pairway assessment techniques. Understand the petroleum system of a basin by identifying, mapping, and quantifying key play elements to assess the most prospective place. What we need to do, we need to validate these prospect probabilities and volumes against the spatial distribution of play chance to ensure that you have risked your prospects and prospect portfolio correctly. So the risk is minimized to the operators who are investing into the E&P, upstream E&P, oil and gas industry. The play-based exploration reflects basically a fundamental shift in exploration focus, wherein prospects are not the basic unit of exploration, but plays are. Some companies, stop at traffic light maps. What I mean to say is, you look at the one prospect, you don't find the oil and gas, they stop the exploration there. That is not the right thing. You need to look at a broader perspective. You just assume that as a traffic light, and further you go to chase the play where exactly it is extending, where to find the hydrocarbon accumulations within the play. Other companies are adopting such techniques, make maps that adopt that appropriation probability into a shared and place specific and local prospect specific probability. Many companies are now refocusing on play based exploration, representing to a return to our pre-1990s or 1980s geoscience roots. Play based exploration involves understanding of all elements of the petroleum system for a given basin or play, and then examining how and more importantly where these elements come together. The past 30 years have witnessed a wide variety of exploration strategies and number of technological revolutions in the search for oil and gas. Although the exploration landscape and tools of the trade are so different than they were in early 1980s. In one aspect, we appear to have come full circle, realizing that deep understanding of our basins is the critical element in any success. And skipping lightly over such an understanding is the primary cause of failure, which we are witnessing now as we started exploring locally instead of going at a basin level and play level. This may sound obvious, but as an industry, this was not the modus operandi in early days of oil and gas exploration or even the 1980s and 90s and up to the into the beginning of new millennium. Over the past 10 to 20 years, with easy oil becoming more difficult to find, new approaches were needed. And this new approach was to discover our roots and getting back to the basics of the sciences, which we fell in love. And we took the geosciences to study, geochemistry to study, different aspects of exploration, and with so many years before. Across the industry, different terms are used. At Shell, the core of this resurgence in geosciences was captured under the play-based exploration concept. The famous play-based pyramid, which indicates at the bottom of the pyramid, you look at the plate tectonic level and tectonic evolution of the basin level and the basin level, then come down to play level after evaluating the play, and then come assess and establish the resources, and then come to the prospect level where the drillable prospect comes. As you mature the prospect more and more, your risk will go down. And play-based as I said, play-based exploration is basically involves the organized integration of virtually every subspecialty of the geological sciences in three separate stages of analysis. A strong foundation of basin understanding is required before moving to the second stage of evaluating the potential place within the basin. Only after these are complete, we can look to evaluate the prospect potential of an area. Doing this takes work and it's messy, we know. To put the story together requires working together, work together on the tables with maps, pencils, erasers, as well as the state of the art computing and interpretation software. It's integrative, iterative. The geophysics, geochemistry, and geology have to have come together. This will be illustrated, through various examples by the various experts who will be speaking during the day. We all know, as we know, the exploration journey starts with the data acquisition and processing, and with the last resource assessment has brought out 177 places in Indian basins. So these 177 places have to be probed and find out where exactly the locals of the hydrocarbon are there, to bring them to surface to the betterment of our country and to realize the dream of our honorable prime minister, to reduce the import dependence on the import has to be reduced, because a lot of foreign exchange is flowing outside the country, which will weaken our economy. The day long event is divided into 4 sessions. As you all know, I think you all might have got the brochure. The first one is on play concepts and industry best practices. And the second one is on play assessment through resource mapping, volumetric, risking. And the third is on challenges, opportunities, Indian basins. And the last one is on exploration strategy and policy framework. We have eminent speakers in all, world famous people like Vagrella, who was associated with earlier resource assessment in India, how scientific methodology has been adopted, how accurate these figures. Of course, nobody can say these are 100% accurate. These geology and predicting the nature is with some sort of uncertainties. Only thing is, to what extent we are reducing those uncertainties, what extent these volumes are right. We also have eminent Indian speakers and domain and industry specialists and experts from oil field service operators, all to deliver the key concept and assessment of approaches. It's basically a cocktail of geoscientific knowledge with regard to play-based exploration, which we'll be having. I think we must have a kick at the end of the day and come out with the bright ideas. We have speakers and moderators who have seen the industry grow through the time. We will look forward to keenly listen to their talk. And we have also, as I mentioned, we have also have the speakers who are associated with earlier Indian resource assessment, the teams which were involved in India from ONGC, as well as Oil India Limited and other private operators. On government side, it will be an opportunity to look into areas where play-based exploration can be pushed through appropriate policy dispensation. What incentive can be given, or what promotional schemes can be devised from the government side, whether it is fiscal level, whether it is the facilitating level, whatever it is, that basically the operators, when they go into the field, whatever they find, when they point out, we are here to facilitate that. As I've been telling in the recent past, we have transformed from regulator to basically the so-called regulator. They used to say, we want to be known as the facilitator, and we want to be practically facilitating, not just the lip service. That is the thing. And with this, I end and wishing all the organizations and wishing a grand session of this esteemed discourse. And I hand over the this thing to session to our organizers, and to welcome DGH sir to share his thoughts. And Chandrima, over to you.
Thank you so much for your wonderful words, Doctor. I would now like to welcome Shri SCL Das, Directorate General of Hydrocarbons, for the keynote address. Shri SCL Das is an officer from the Indian Administrative Service. In his career spanning over 28 years, he has had professional experience in diversified sectors such as energy, power, urban development, health, finance, and taxation. He has overseen implementation of some key reforms and projects at state level, such as GST, Delhi Metro, and power privatization, etc. He has also worked in the Unified Nations Office for Project Services. Mr. Das holds a master's degree in public health from Johns Hopkins University, USA, and degrees in science and law. May I now request you, sir, to share the keynote address?
Thank you, Chandrima, and a very, very good morning to all of you, and greetings from the DGH. Very distinguished speakers, domain experts, moderators, delegates, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is always a real pleasure to be with you. In fact, seeing the spread of such eminent experts, some of whom I have come to know personally and deeply respect, and also many other experts of eminence whose profiles I have seen, I'm filled with, have a feeling of, I feel very humbled at the same time very privileged to be with you. And it is in such gatherings that I always am inspired by a deep feeling of hope and enthusiasm, that whenever we have such eminent people who know the industry so well, who have so much of expertise, well, there is always a solution. We can always look up to this group to advise us, give us inputs, give us ways forward. So it is with this feeling that I am grateful to. I would like to express my gratitude for all of you, to all of you for being there here, and I consider it a privilege for myself to also be interacting with you. So I, on behalf of DGH, I join my colleague, Dr. Laxma Reddy, in welcoming you all to this session, and to also call upon you to really join hands, join your minds together in providing us some useful inputs at the end of the day, which will give a very, very clear beacons, which will really help us chart our way collectively. We work, us, basically meaning the industry and the government together, to chart our way in the decade or the decades ahead. So my submission briefly to you is this. Let me start with a very small personal story. Every day, every morning, when I undertake this drive of about 50 minutes from home to office, I'm part of a long, endless stream of vehicles, a lot of two-wheelers, many cars, few buses, trucks. And every day this imagery always, holds me, that here is a hard-working urban class. People are moving, goods are moving. And I imagine it's the same if you look at the national highways. There also it's all abuzz with vehicles, goods, people all moving. Our waterways, high seas, see the Strait of Hormuz, the 10-degree channel, thick with movement, people, goods, things are moving. And similarly, our airspace. So this particular imagery always, daily I think of this, and I kind of imagine that what if we had been, all this is powered, all this, our refiners are working very hard, to give this end products, the retail products for these, all this, where is air, sea, rails. Similarly, the rail tracks are busy, and the roads. The refiners are busy all the time, fueling all this locomotion of goods and people. What if 85% of this was produced in this country and not 15%? What if we had realized the Prime Minister's vision of reduction by 2022 in the import dependence of 10%? How strong would this economy be? How much more powered the economic activities would have been? So this thought never leaves me. And so how does it relate to today's talk? Obviously, it relates in a very fundamental way. I personally feel, and I'm sure this is what I have learned from you only, so I'm only sharing my thoughts, what essentially I have learned from an eminent fraternity like you. In 2021, as we stand, now few months have already passed, I think we are on a threshold, an inflection point in the history of our energy economy of our planet. So much of discourse around energy has changed in a very short while. Of course, it was part of a trend, but the discourse has changed materially in the past year or two. At the same time, in our country, in this country, in the country context, evidently, lot has remained the same. Our energy demand is growing. Our import dependence hasn't shrunk materially. We need to do a lot there. So in terms of the national agenda, we still have a big task before us, which is to significantly step up the domestic production. And how will that happen in a country where practically no significant discoveries happened in the last 2 decades? And any of the significant producing field is more than 2 decades, sometimes 3, some even 4. How does that happen? So I feel, and I know many of you also have the same view, that here we are at an inflection point in our energy evolution. And this year, 2021, is the start of a decade which I feel is a window of opportunity. And I would like to call it a decade of discoveries. It is my aspirational thinking. It is my dream on behalf of the industry, as a DGH person, as an ENP, fellow worker. It's my dream, it's my aspiration that this decade, which we are embarking upon today, in this 2021, at the threshold, be a decade of discoveries. And it's not just only wishful thinking, it's an imperative. We know it's a compulsion. If we don't discover something very significant in this decade with 2 barren decades behind us, we won't be able to fulfill our agenda. And with such expertise at our command, with so much of sedimentary basins left unexplored, only 7%, a country with only 7% of the sedimentary basins in active area, under active petroleum operations, with so many plays which are proved but yet to be consolidated and developed, so many known plays which are yet to be proved, so much left undone. So here is a decade which I think very sincerely is a decade of opportunity, should be a decade of discoveries. One cannot talk of production without first looking at the fundamentals. And that is why I feel, my humble opinion, we ought to have a strategic refocusing, a re-strategizing of our petroleum exploration. The entire business of this is luckily an industry where science leads business. Science and business are, twins. One supports the other. And you are the science, basically. So you can make it happen. But in our country, I feel that here is a basic requirement to get our basic strategies right. We have to have refocus on the fundamentals. This entire talk of prospectivity of our sedimentary basins, I think we got to have a holistic, a complete, a fuller understanding of the entire prospectivity of our basins. I think we ought to be much more organized, much more holistic in our approach to assessing our plays in terms of focusing where we should be, when we know pretty well that about 13 BTOE of wrist volume is still to be found. It's yet to be found volume. It's a massive volume. And even at a very modest recovery factor of 20%, it means a lot to us, 2.6 BTOE. So how do we go about it? This session is basically devoted to that question. How do we, first of all, refocus our strategy, our energies, our ENP endeavors, so that we fit in? There is a time synchronization. We got to pitch in our efforts at the right point in time. Here, in terms of time, as I explained and as I submitted to you, there could not be historically a better time frame than this point in our energy evolution. This particular decade, of which 2021 is only the harbinger, is the time to start and not lose a month or a year at all. Here is the time, this is the time to really get our acts together, which essentially means we got to look at the basics, fundamentals of petroleum exploration, see what craft our basic strategy. The experts should come together, domestic, international experts should come together and think in this country context. Our own context is very unique. We have this imperative to deliver. We have a hydrocarbon future which intend to pursue very seriously. The government is very serious about it. And it will do all it takes. We will do all it takes in terms of policy incentives, in terms of fiscal incentives, in terms of facilitations, in terms of creating support structures, in terms of populating high quality and high quality and very reliable geoscientific data. The country will do all it takes. But we need the roadmap from you. We need the strategic plan from you. What should be the strategic? I feel there is a need for a strategic refocusing, and that roadmap has to be revisited and laid out in very clear, unmistakable terms. You have seen our recent efforts, and why I'm saying this, because government is committed, because we have seen some of our efforts which actually are pointers in that direction. We have been of late emphasizing on the PRMS-based approach to notify discoveries, to projectize commercialization of reserves, and we will work with the industry to see that the best practices in this regard are evolved, and those which are sub-commercial, those which require better technology and there are techno-commercial challenges, we will be happy to consider how they could be further facilitated. You have looked at the data, the NSP program which has happened, our efforts at providing high quality data, and now this NDR, the generation 2 NDR is actively being developed. So we hope to come back to you very soon with the generation 2 of the NDR with much more high quality data, cloud-based display, which the industry has been asking for. All that we are doing in consultation with the industry, that will come to you. We have the simplifications in PSC we have already done. RSC is being further simplified in terms of notification of discoveries, in terms of the subsequent post-discovery appraisal and development activities which can go on. The contract compliances are being further simplified. So all the related activities are being streamlined so that this source, the glacial of this entire river, which is the exploration activity, that can once that gets reorganized and then one that gets refocused and re-strategized, the rest of the entire things sequence, downstream sequences, post discovery, we are trying to streamline, and pre-discovery, whatever the enablers are, data and other system support, we are already committed to giving you. So here is a need, here is a huge national need, here is a time context, and here is this community which can make it happen. You are the thought leaders for petroleum exploration, and it is my earnest request to you to look at this specific context, look at this window of opportunity, turn it into a decade of discoveries, and tell us how this can actually happen. We got to have a plan. If we believe in that plan, I believe it will happen. And I can give you my solemn commitment on behalf of the Government of India, my team here, that you will never see us falling below expectations, what the industry expects. We are ever ready to meet your expectations, meet the expectations of the industry, be it the national oil companies, be it the private players. We work hand in hand. So with these words, I will not like to come in the way of a very, I would say, enriching and very high-class discussions, 4-part discussions. And I wish the very best. I wish you all the very best. And while thanking you for all contributing your valuable professional time for this, what I call a national objective. For us, it's a national objective, and I believe we are all here to contribute to a national cause. I thank you on behalf of the Government of India, and I wish a very fruitful session. I look forward to your recommendations, and I conclude by my sincere wishes for good health, safety to you, to your family, to all your colleagues. God bless this industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking and inspiring words. With this, we come to the end of the inaugural session.